Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. As I sit here tonight, there are two incredible quotes from Ruben Amorim that I have to discuss. It can't wait till the 10 o'clock show. Give me your thoughts on this. One of them in relation to playing Bruno Fernandes, and a second one which basically divides the fan base in a way that is probably a good way, because if you want him to change the formation, you have to be Amorim out. In his own words, you have to be. And look, I have a list here in front of me that you will see over the week. I'm going to have to do quite a lot of these types of videos to go through the amount of singular issues at United, including what happens if you do sack a manager, what happens with this player, because the problems are endless. And I don't know whether I want to be on that cycle. But Ruben Amorim is the manager, and these two things that he said are incredible. The first one is obviously about what I just said there on how this is a direct quote, I will not change my philosophy. I will continue with my ideas. If you have to change, you have to change the man. That, to me, makes it very, very simple. You are either Amorim out or you are Amorim in. Like, if you want the formation to change, you have to be Amorim out. And that's not as simple as sack the manager. I mean, these people who say sack the manager tonight, it's time to go. Either they're not engaging their brain or they're just saying it for effect. Because sacking the manager tonight. So we're going to sack a manager after spending £200 million on him because he's lost to Arsenal and Man City. With all due respect, Arsenal and Man City finished second and third last year. With all due respect, Newcastle lost 12 games and got Champions League football last year. With all due respect, we're not sacking a manager after spending £200 million because he loses to Man City and Arsenal. It may be the pathway to that, I completely agree. But sack him tonight, come on. Come on. I mean, that's just an incredibly silly thing to say. I think. You might disagree. But what I do agree with is that this could well be a pathway to it. And what I do agree with is that if you want a formation change, and this is why I keep saying it's a waste of time, maybe call up the rubbish radio stations. If you're demanding a formation change, you're effectively demanding a manager change. There is no point. And I don't think some people agree. I don't know whether you agree or disagree, but for me, there is no point saying we need to change the formation, whether you are an ex-player, the media, or a fan. There is no point saying it because he's not going to do it. And some of us understand that. He is not changing the formation or the system. So if you're asking for that, what you're really saying is sack the manager. And is that what you're saying? And Amorim is basically saying that to you. That's what he's saying there. I'm not changing it. And to be fair to him, what did we say when he got the job? What did we say when he got the job? We said, oh my God, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Ineos must be willing to spend £500 million. Because you don't take a team that's always played 4-3-3, recruit a manager that plays an exciting 3-4-3, and think you're only going to do it by buying 3 attackers and a left back. Like, there needed to be a lot more investment in this system, and we haven't really had it. So ultimately, if this fails, I think, okay, Ruben Amorim can lose his job, but what does it mean for Ineos? They have basically sat over and presided over a festering steam of rubbish, shit, since they came in. Every decision has been catastrophic. The second thing that Amorim said, and he basically was asked about Bruno Fernandes playing in the midfield. And he said, I understand how football is, and the results dictate the narrative. Did you think we were the better team against Arsenal? They had Odegaard, Rice, and Zubimendi. I see it that way. I know that is hard for people. The fans do not want to hear these things. I don't lie to myself. I see the record and I accept any decision that comes with that. What you've basically got there is the question we all want. Why are you playing Bruno in midfield? And his answer is, I understand football. I understand how things are. I played Bruno in the midfield against Odegaard, Rice and Zubimendi. We're with the better team. This is my concern. I back Amorim. I don't want to sack a manager. I see the system getting better, but I cannot move past Bruno in the midfield. You know me. I have had a problem with it for a long time. I've watched football since I was about 5 years of age, going with my granddad, watching him manage teams, watching games, watching TV games, watching it with you for the last decade. I have watched so much football. And I don't think football's a hard game to watch. I think it's simplistic. I think things are very logical. You put circles in circles, you put squares in squares, you put balls in the back of the net, you defend your goal. Midfield is where the game is won and run. It's very, very simple. My issue with this is it doesn't sound to me like we have a manager that is willing to change. I don't care about the formation, but I do care about the players you put into it. And I don't think he's going to change Bruno in the midfield, and I don't think he thinks he needs to. And there is such thing as a Premier League expert, a European expert, and Amorim is not a Premier League expert. He has to respect this league. You can't just take a number 10 and put them in the midfield. We didn't do it with Rooney and it didn't work. We didn't do it with Giggs and it didn't work. We didn't do it long term is what I mean. We lost to Arsenal 1-0. We lost to Arsenal because Bruno gave away a cheap corner and then Binder messed up. We did okay against Arsenal, but we lost. Odegaard, Rice and Zubimendi. We lost. Fulham. Bruno loses Smith Rowe. We drew. Man City. Bruno loses Foden. We lose. Obviously, we lose 3-0, not 1-0, but I don't think people realise that when you concede a goal that early, it's like going into a boxing match and being knocked down. You can get up and win, but it tends to be if you get knocked down first, you're in for it. You're going to struggle, and this is what happens. And I said this in the match reaction: if Bruno's going to play in the midfield and Amorim's going to stick with it, then he may well lose his job dying on that hill, and it'll be very, very sad. But ultimately, it's a mistake, and it's all right going, well, look, I'm going to stick with it. I think it will work, and it is very early in the season, by the way. Look. I always said by game 10, we might be up to speed. If we don't lose any other game between now and game 10, apart from Chelsea and Liverpool, 4 losses in the first 10, and then you go on really good run, we'll be fine. We'll be absolutely fine. We'll finish in the top 6. But I just think anybody is going to say, like next week, I'd be saying to Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, attach yourself to Bruno around the edge of the box, and when we get in a position where we look like we're going to attack, run off him. And if it finds you, you'll be unmarked. If I'm Brentford, I'm saying that. When we're on the attack, especially down the flanks, attach yourself to Bruno and then at the last minute, just dart off him. He won't go with you and you'll be free for any loose ball to kick it up. I mean, you can't go into games of football where the opposition attach yourself to Bruno as an attacking midfielder and then right at the last minute, just dart off him because he won't go with you. I mean, it's just a glaringly bad tactical setup. It's a bit like how teams know to knock the ball to the back post because we're terrible on the back post. And that doesn't stand up to scrutiny against Odegaard, Rice and Zubimendi because we have a player that is defensively weak. We can't carry on with that. We can't defend that. We literally can't defend that. So I find it worrying that he is there saying, basically Bruno can work in the midfield. And I hope it gets proven correct. But I found those two things after the game today really concerning. One, the insistence that he's right about Bruno against, an absolute swathe of evidence to the contrary. And I'm on the contrary, and I'm sure many of you are. I just don't agree with him on that, even though I back him and I want him to do well. And the first point, which I do agree with, is that people need to stop asking for a formation change. He won't do it. If you want the formation change, you basically have to be Amorim out. And if that's what you want to do this early in the season, well, that's your prerogative. But the formation change demand doesn't even make sense. Even when I analyse it myself, he's got to change his formation. He's got to change his formation. You may as well change the manager. If you want us to go back to a 4-3-3, maybe bring Erik ten Hag back. He plays it. Maybe try, I don't know, Sean Dyche. I don't. Someone who plays 4-3. If you want 4-3-3, you're gonna have to change the manager, and that's what Amorim's saying. So you're either gonna stick with him, or you're not. And it's make your choice time. Now, for me, the easy choice is to stick with him. I just don't want him to play Bruno in the midfield. I would like to see Ugarte and Mainu given a run of games between now and Christmas, because Casemiro's got no future and Bruno can't play there. If he did that, I'd ride out bad results because I think in the long term we'd get better. We still need to sign a midfielder. But the big problem is we're not going to do that. Our best player, the player that we basically said to you shit gold because we won't sell him, We wouldn't even take £90 million for him. Doesn't suit the system Amorim plays. He's not a midfielder in this system. In a midfield 2, he's not a midfield 2. And he's not really a number 10 in this system because Amorim likes to use quicker, more progressive players. So he doesn't even suit the system. The question is, why didn't we sell him? I do wonder if there are hidden stories at United because Amorim said there are things you don't know about that have happened at this football club over the last 6 months and you will never know. Well, I'd like to know. That caught my ear. There are things that have gone on that you don't know about that have made us struggle, basically. I'd love to know what they are. But the big one is, why didn't you sell Bruno? He doesn't suit your team. He doesn't suit your system. He is our best player. I will argue with that. But he doesn't suit the system. Interesting stuff. Get your comments in. I just felt like, I had to talk about those two things because they're from the manager. And this insistence that Bruno works in the midfield has to stop, but I don't think it will. And this formation change conversation has to stop. Because what it basically means is, if you want the formation to change, you have to be Amorim out. Are you ready to do that? I'm certainly not. I want to stick with the system and I want Bruno out the midfield. Thanks for watching. Get your comments in. Stay safe. Smash a like. I'll speak to you on the next one. Back at 10 a.m. live.